Carl, let's bring in Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta Airlines, joining us from the company's headquarters in Atlanta. Ed, you reported Q1 results today, a smaller than expected loss of 51 cents a share. No offense to the hard work you did in the first quarter, but everybody realizes it's all about Q2 and then the remainder of this year. How bad is business right now?
Well, thanks for joining us today, Phil, and thanks for having us on. Before I answer your question, I do want to share on behalf of the 90,000 men and women of Delta Airlines that we are doing everything we can to stand with the people of the world to fight this awful pandemic. We're heartbroken. We've lost some of our own family members amongst the Delta family to the virus, and we want to make sure that everyone knows we're doing everything we can to find a solution to this awful crisis. The challenge in the business right now is demand. With all the stay-at-home orders and the challenges with respect to travel, it's well documented. We're operating right now at less than 5% of a normal passenger load. I think today we're operating with about 30,000 passengers on our books. And the important thing, though, to note is that those are essential passengers. Those are people that are out in the business making a difference, whether it's healthcare workers, whether it's people visiting families, whether it's emergencies, whether it's transporting PPE and healthcare items from China to the front lines of our medical personnel. The Delta people are heroes. They're out there working hard to keep the nation's airways open, and we're going to do everything we can to work through this crisis together.
Ed, you were talking about those being essential workers. Look, you're right there in Atlanta. Georgia is in the midst of saying we're going to open up the economy again. Do you believe you're going to have many people there in the metropolitan Georgia area, or metropolitan Atlanta area, who are going to say, yeah, I think it's time for us to get back on flights? Or do you expect that it's going to remain essentially essential travelers only?
Well, for the short term, I think it'll be essential travelers only. And we've been open throughout this entire period. But I do believe with proper conservative caution, with taking safeguards, with working with small businesses to ensure that they're doing everything they can to social distance and start to build the economy and bring the economy back, we're taking good steps together. We've been working through this. We're providing all the support we can to our local community to help them get back on their feet.
Do you think that's the right decision that they're making in Georgia, that the governor says, let's start opening up this economy, and also you're seeing with Florida, South Carolina?
Well, right now in Atlanta, we're still under stay-at-home orders. So I think the governor has been talking about how to start to rebuild the economy. It's starting very slow, starting in a phase one effort. And I think this is going to be choppy. And the recovery is going to take much longer than any of us would like to see. But we need to start building back in a safe way the operations of our economy.
Jim Cramer, always glad that you and your compadres come on from your business. It seems like you're very open-minded culture, and really salute you for doing that.
Thank you, Jim.
First question. I see you're offering free flights to medical professionals fighting COVID-19 in the hardest hit areas of the United States. Do we have any evidence that those people have a higher than expected rate of COVID illness because they travel on your planes?
There's no evidence of that going on in our planes. One of the things that we said when we started just 30 days ago, dealing with this crisis, is that the first priority was to protect our people, protect our customers in the greatest way possible. While we've done everything we can to conserve cash in the environment, and we'll talk about that with respect to liquidity, we've doubled down, in fact, tripled down on sanitation and hygiene and cleanliness, and making certain that every aircraft that we're on are being fogged every single day. The facilities, the social distancing practices on our planes, making certain people are at least 6 feet away throughout the cabin, giving them the opportunity, changing the boarding practice. We now board from the back first to make certain that people aren't walking past customers sitting in first class. So there's no evidence at all that we are transmitting by staying open the virus.
Well, let's say you offered that Abbott 5-minute, 15-minute box right before you get on. Do you think it would change things? And the reason I say that is because after I just heard you say what you said, I want to go. You have a great flight to San Francisco that I can take. Now, I really want to go to San Francisco, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm not going, given what you just said.
Well, we are enlisting the very best medical experts. One of the challenges with this virus that we're all fighting is that it's turning a bunch of CEOs into healthcare CEOs overnight. I'm not a healthcare CEO, I'm an airline CEO, right. But we are enlisting the very best medical advisors and expert advisors to make certain that we have insight into everything from the diagnostics and the testing protocols and what works and how can we start to translate that into our business model, all the way through the vaccines. What's happening on the vaccine world, and does that turn into a position where we have immunity passports that our customers are going to be required to enlist? So I don't know the answer specifically to testing, Jim, but I can tell you that we've got people working on it with the right medical experts to try to advance that process. And there's no question that until customers feel safe traveling, this business in terms of air travel is not going to return at scale.
What did Warren Buffett say to you when he bolted from your stock? Because I know he was very excited about your stock at a much higher price, and I don't hear anything that makes me feel like that you did something wrong.
We didn't do anything wrong, and I think if you asked Mr. Buffett, he would share the same. He sold below the 10% threshold, so I'm not at liberty to disclose any conversations that we've had. But he's been a great investor, getting back into the business, and we'll see what happens.
Hey Ed, it's Carl. It's good to talk to you this morning. I wonder, given this morning the CDC director is warning that we could see a second spike in concert with the regular flu season later on this winter. But whenever a potential reemergence in cases comes, how much money do you have to set aside again for another interruption in demand like the one we're seeing right now?
Well, thanks, Carl. Good to talk to you as well. We are actively preserving cash and liquidity. One of the things that when we entered this dilemma, we said, so 3 simple priorities. First, make sure we're taking the very best care of our customers and our people. Second, we're protecting our other precious resource, which is our cash. And third, that we're taking the advantage of the time here to build the business we want for the future, to accelerate into the future, not to try to look to rebuild what we had in the past. And it's going to create some really interesting opportunities for us. On the question of cash, our team and the finance team, Paul Jacobson, our CFO, has done a great job raising liquidity. We have $5.5 billion that he's raised just since March in the private markets. We received on Monday the first installment from the Treasury Department on the PSP payment, $2.7 billion, and we expect to end at the end of June with $10 billion, at least $10 billion, hopefully more, of cash in the bank, with opportunities to raise more as we go forward. But the other part of the liquidity raise is not just financing, is what we're doing on the cost structure, which I think is going to really separate Delta, continue to separate Delta and differentiate us in the marketplace. In this current quarter, the second quarter that we're in, we've been able to find ways to reduce 50% of our total operating expenses within the current quarter from a standing still position just 30 days ago. Over $5 billion of cash we're saving just in the current quarter alone. So team's doing a magnificent job of protecting cash and liquidity, because we know that this could take several years before we're into our new normal of traveling. The other thing about this that I do know to be true, while there's a lot that we don't know, we have a lot more questions than answers, I do know that we're not only an essential service, we're a service that people want to travel on once they feel safe to experience our product once again.
Hey, Ed,
when we talk about load factors...
oh, go ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Phil, on load factors, I think for the quarter it was 73.1, and I wonder, is there what's the new break-even load factor for a major these days?
Well, that's a question I don't think airline CEOs want to try to figure out, because it just causes consternation. The reality is that we're in a cash preservation mode, probably for the balance of this year. Realistically, we need to get our load factors back up into that 80% over time, and we'll walk it through. We've got a lot of our capacity on the ground. We've got over 600 planes grounded at the present time. We're only flying about 10 to 15% of our schedule at the present time. But as we were talking with Jim, once customers feel safe to travel, and it's not just physically safe, it's also financially safe, because we also have to consider what the impact in the markets have had and the economy has had on discretionary spend as well. But once that happens, and it may take 2 to 3 years to build it back, people will come back.
Ed, you were burning about $100 million in cash a day at the end of March. You're hoping to get down to just $50 million of cash burn a day by the end of June. But you expect to be burning cash by the end of even at the end of the year, correct? Is it likely that we see you doing a daily cash burn, let's say through the first quarter, maybe into the second quarter of next year?
It's really hard to predict, Phil. It's based on the demand and the duration of the challenges we're experiencing on the revenue front. The $100 million a day that we saw in March was true, and and I do expect that by the month of June, in fact, maybe even the month of May, we'll have that down to about $50 million a day. So the team's done a very nice job. But we're looking through the second half of the year, looking at what we're going to need to do to continue to preserve cash, to keep that 50% of overall savings that we had in the second quarter, keep that same momentum moving through the business while we work to encourage customer confidence back in our product, in our business.
Ed, I've been wondering, I've a lot of these companies on Mad Money that are designed to have success for office at home. And there's just hundreds of thousands of people that I used to see on the planes, the extremely full planes. There's always these guys in suits, and they're making a fortune going to different places, flying first class. Do you think something's going to permanently change, that the Zooms of the world and the WebExes of the world will make it so that some of your best customers aren't going to be able to be flying after this?
I think there will be some behavioral patterns that will change, no question about it. I think it'll take some time to understand what that means. I don't think that we're turning into a telecommuting workforce. I do think we'll have a portion of travel that will move over to telecommuting. But the reality is the human spirit wants to engage with fellow humans. Business travel is going to come back. People need to be face-to-face doing business together when it's safe, when that opportunity arises. People are going to want to get out of their homes and go on those experiences, whether it's for leisure or go to visit relatives and people they haven't seen in some time. But we have to make it safe. We have to make it physically safe. The other thing about this that is really important to remember is that we specialize in safety. In our business, flight safety is everything. We are the safest form of transportation in the world in the U.S. aviation system, bar none. We need to take that same rigor and that same analytical approach and that same focus to personal safety and hygiene as you travel aboard our aircraft and you work through our facilities, as we have for flight safety for years. We're confident we'll get there and we'll get the business back.
Okay, so Ed, when I go to Delta, what I don't want these. These are the paper ones. I want an N95 made by 3M. Okay, you can give me gloves. I would love to be able to be sure that the person next to me is wearing the mask so they don't give it to me, which is the real reason why we want masks. I would love to be able to know that the person next to me has the antibodies, whatever. And I would pay triple what I used to pay for San Francisco to be able to know that when I got there, it is fine. But what I can't figure out is, how did you guys get to be known as an incubator like you're a Carnival Cruise? If you're not an incubator, and you can demonstrate that with masks, that person next to me won't give it, why aren't people flying? I mean, you got some pretty good bargains right now.
Well, I think there's a lot in that, what you said, and certainly we do have masks, we do have gloves. All of our staff, our frontline staff, are encouraged to wear them. We do have masks for customers that they don't bring them. The majority of customers that are flying are carrying their own mask as they should. And they should wear masks when they travel, at least until the virus is contained. But what we're into, Jim, is a new normal going forward, and it's going to be very interesting. The reality is that you will find customers will come back to quality. Yes. And there will be a premium for quality and reliability and the reputation of service excellence, all of which our brand represents. Delta is known for quality. That's our hallmark. That's our calling card. There will be the opportunity to lead with our service excellence and our people working with the medical experts. How do we translate that back into the business model? Whether it's testing, whether it's the safeguards on board the planes, whatever it's going to take, we're going to do whatever we need to do to re-inspire confidence in business travel as well as leisure travel going forward.
Ed, as if you don't have enough to deal with everything happening here in the U.S. and with your own airline, I'm curious what you think about what's happening with Virgin Atlantic. You guys own 49% of Virgin Atlantic, and Richard Branson was out with a very sobering message yesterday saying, look, we need help. And the British government at the same time has said, well, listen, you step up if you want some help. If the British government says to Virgin Atlantic, look, Delta owns 49% of you. They got to pony up some money before we step in. What would you say?
Well, on the Delta front, we are not in a position to invest any more money into Virgin. We're already at the ownership cap of 49%, and candidly, with our crisis, with the cash that we need to protect our own business, that's what our focus is. I trust Virgin will work through its challenges with the government and with Richard. If they are required to go through an administration process in the UK, I'm confident they could reemerge. There's a need for the Virgin brand in the UK marketplace, and I'm confident once we get through and we understand where this virus is going to get to a point where people feel safe to travel again, the Virgin brand will be strong once more. But it could take a legal process to get through that.